I don't want to be your brother anymore. On the evening I brought my new boyfriend home for dinner. Su-yan knocked on my bedroom door. Before I could react, he pinned me against the door, leaned down until our foreheads were almost touching, and spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. That question you asked me a year ago. I can answer it now. My heart was pounding. You were always the one clinging to my heels, weren't you? The clothes you're wearing are mine. The scent is mine. Your heart is mine. Why are you with someone else? His fingers tangled in the hair by my ear, his thumb gently stroking my cheek. Su Kiao Kiao. I don't want to be your brother anymore. My name is Su Kiao Kiao. Su-yan is my brother, though we share no blood. We share a surname. To put it simply, both of the men my mother married happened to be surnamed Su. In the years when Su-yan paid me little attention, I clung fiercely to this coincidental link, as if we truly were bound by blood, forever inseparable. The year I turned 15, I left a damp, dilapidated rented room, and was led by my mother into a strange, large house, the home I live in now. I met my new father, Su Cheng. Beaming, he patted my head and showed me to my room. Looking back now, it might have seemed a bit ingratiating, but to my eyes back then, everything was arranged as exquisitely as a princess's room in a fairy tale. When Su Cheng explained how to use the water heater, I stared dumbly at his moving lips. I was so happy. I wouldn't have to go to the communal kitchen to boil water and lug heavy buckets upstairs to bathe anymore. I stammered a nervous, "Thank you, Uncle." Su Cheng just smiled understandingly, seemingly in no hurry for me to call him Dad. After my mother gave a few instructions, they left together. Once they were gone, I launched myself onto my new bed as if falling into a beautiful dream. I stared at the pink bed canopy for a long, long time, so long that I didn't notice when someone appeared in my doorway. This was my first encounter with Su-yan. I was startled, frozen in place like a thief who'd broken into someone else's home, only daring to sneak glances at him from the corner of my eye. He was very good-looking, tall and lean, more striking than the most popular boy at our school. Leaning against the doorframe with one hand, a basketball tucked under his other arm, he stood there for a moment before asking who I was and why I was in his house. I scrambled up, flustered. My name is Su Kiao Kiao. My mother is Tang Zhao. Uncle Su Cheng said this is my room. He seemed to think for a few seconds, then stepped forward, pulled back the bed canopy, sat on my bed and leaned in to study me. So Tang Jiao is my wicked stepmother, and you're the little sister I mysteriously acquired. I was getting genuinely annoyed. My mother isn't wicked. Huh. Having asked what he wanted, he lost interest and stood up. Sorry. Su-yan tossed out that sorry, and left the room without even telling me his name. Immediately after, the sound of a door slamming shut came from another room. I stood there dumbfounded, unable to process the fact that I'd suddenly gained a brother, even if this brother perfectly fit my teenage, romantic fantasies. At dinner time, the four of us sat together. Su Cheng introduced them to Su-yan one by one. This is Auntie Tang Jiao, the one Dad mentioned before. From now on, she helped take care of you. My mother smiled and greeted him warmly, calling him Xiaoyan. Su-yan just mumbled a response and kept his head down, shoveling food into his mouth. And this is Kiao Kiao, Auntie Tang's daughter. You could say she's your little sister. She'll be starting at your high school next term. Make sure to look out for her, all right? Su-yan looked up, glanced at me, and replied perfunctorily, "Got it. I'm finished, going back to my room." He put down his bowl and left. Watching his retreating back, I had a vague sense he didn't like me much. But it didn't matter. It wasn't important. After that, I rarely saw Su-yan. Once settled into the new home, my mother shed her penny-pinching ways and signed me up for a slew of junior, high transition classes and several extracurriculars all at once. The heavy workload filled my summer days. The only time I saw him was at the dinner table, and he always ate quickly, as if afraid to spend an extra second with us. A bit later, once I'd mostly adjusted to life in the new house, I even saw my mother less often. Su Cheng's building materials factory was far from home, and construction sites were prone to accidents. To avoid the back-and-forth commute, she and Su Cheng started staying in the factory's rest quarters after work. Before leaving, she instructed me, "There won't be any adults at home from now on. You cook for your brother. I taught you how back in the rented room." She also said, "Landing such a good life is our good fortune. Don't start acting like a real young lady. Get closer to your brother. He gets excellent grades. One must learn to gravitate towards advantage." And so, on the first night it was just Su-Yan and me at home, I ventured into the kitchen. Opening the fridge, I found vegetables, meat, eggs, a bounty of ingredients. Full of confidence, I began. 10 minutes later, the kitchen looked like a bloody battlefield strewn with casualties, with scallions, ginger, and garlic hanging from the rafters. Staring at the blackened fried eggs, I hesitated for a moment before putting on a deadpan expression and knocking on Su-Yan's door. Facing his slightly confused face, I uttered the line I'd rehearsed in my head several times. "Brother, could you help me cook?" This was the first time I called him brother. Hearing this, he raised an eyebrow. I couldn't read his expression, but I followed him back to the kitchen. He looked silently at the chaotic mess on the floor, paused speechlessly, and said, "It takes a special talent to make such a mess." Embarrassed, I moved to clean up the disaster, at least wash the pan. He stretched an arm in front of me, grabbed the back of my collar, and gently pulled me back, meaning stay out of the way. "Spare us your efforts. Just stand there and watch carefully, Your Highness." Suddenly, I felt incredibly happy. I didn't know if it was because he'd spoken more to me today or for some other reason. But watching him operate skillfully with an impassive face, fireworks slowly began to rise in my heart. Boiling water, washing vegetables, cooking noodles, beating eggs, seasoning. A few minutes later, Su-Yan and I sat facing each other at the dining table, 2 steaming bowls of egg noodles in front of us. They tasted as good as expected. Silence still reigned at the table. Su-Yan focused on eating his noodles, not intending to spare any energy for conversation, as if the earlier teasing had never happened. I felt a bit disappointed, but my pride was also thin. Words of praise stuck in my throat. After hesitating for a long time, I finally mumbled, "How did you learn to cook noodles?" "You're really good." He paused, seemingly unwilling to engage. "But perhaps out of politeness," he answered. "Isn't it something anyone with hands can do?" ... This time, it was my turn to fall silent. Before leaving the table, he tilted his chin towards the empty bowls. "Your Highness can wash dishes, right?" I nodded vigorously. "All right, wash the bowls. Try not to break them." As he passed by me, he stopped briefly and asked, "Why didn't you call me brother earlier?" I blinked, looking into his eyes, and softly called out, "Brother." He looked back at me, a hint of a smile playing on his lips, then went back to his room. The holiday passed in a blink, and the school term began soon after. My new high school was Su-Yan's school No. 1 Municipal High, a key school with a boarding system. Facing my first time living on campus, I felt some resistance. Group living made me uncomfortable, and I lacked the confidence to navigate new social situations smoothly. My mother was very worried about me. The day before returning to school, while nagging, she packed all the necessities for boarding life. Finally, carrying a fruit platter, she knocked on Su-Yan's door. I peeked from my doorway. "Xiao Yan, have some fruit." "No need, thank you." Su-Yan declined very politely. "It's like this. Kiao Kiao is starting high school too. This child has never lived away from home before. Auntie just wanted to ask if you could look out for her a bit more." From my angle, I couldn't see my mother's expression, but I could see Su-Yan's. My heart was in my throat. I suppose I have a bit of a people-pleasing personality. I'm afraid of being a burden to others, especially Su-Yan. I didn't want him to dislike me. I tried to detect any trace of impatience on his face. There wasn't any, actually. He was just neutral, expressionless, as if hearing about an inconsequential matter, like casually passing something to someone. He said, "All right." He waited a moment, and seeing my mother had nothing else to say, he closed the door. What did all right mean? No matter how much I pondered it, I slept well that night. It felt like a safe landing, yet also like floating on clouds. The first order of business at school was the standard 1-week military training. Thus began my routine of shuttling between the sports field, the dormitory, and the cafeteria. The more outgoing people quickly stood out during group activities, while I always remained on the sidelines, watching silently. One night during a dormitory chat, I was writing my military training diary homework, when the topic turned to sharing about family members. After a moment's thought I said, I have a brother. He's at our school in year 12. The dormitory immediately erupted, as if having a brother was the most enviable thing. In reality, Suyan probably didn't see me as a sister. He always called me by my full name, Su Kiao, without a hint of warmth. I felt a bit sad. It had been 3 days since term started, and I hadn't seen Suyan. I knew in my heart that his offhand all right was just a routine brush-off, just a way to quickly close the door my mother had knocked on. Yet, despite that, I was still very disappointed. I secretly hoped to see him again. Coming back to my senses, I realized my homework was covered in the word brother. I tore it up. Finally, on the 5th day, I saw Suyan. I was walking back from the cafeteria to the dormitory, slowly munching on an apple. Passing the unavoidable basketball court, I habitually glanced at the figures darting around. A shout of "Watch out!" came from somewhere, followed by a basketball flying towards me in a perfect arc. Before I could react, it hit me square on the temple. My vision went black, the world spun. A sharp pain shot through me, and the half-chewed apple in my mouth ended up in my hand. Uncontrollable tears welled up. I stumbled and fell to the ground, clutching my temple, my mind a blank. Are you okay, classmate? Sorry. Are you all right? Can you get up? Soon, several people crowded around me. They said many things. It was noisy. I couldn't hear them clearly, couldn't see clearly. Just kept my head down. Su Kiao. A voice cut clearly through the crowd. I looked up. Tears still streaming. I struggled to make out his face. You okay? Suyan's face came closer. Looking at him, a tidal wave surged in my heart. All the pent-up grievances and discomfort from the past few days finally burst. I cried in front of him. Actually, there wasn't much to be upset about. My classmates were nice. The teachers were nice. Everything about this new life was unfolding smoothly. But seeing Suyan's face, I just felt wronged. I said in a tearful voice, Brother, I don't feel good. He froze for a second. I'll take you to the infirmary. Then he took my hand, draped it over his shoulder, turned around, and crouched in front of me. I wrapped my arms around his neck and leaned onto his back. On the way to the infirmary, I gently rested my head against the nape of his neck, sniffling. Stop crying. Does it still hurt? It really hurts, ... double quotes. He tilted his head slightly. Bear with it. Weren't you watching where you were going? I wanted to protest, but the words died on my lips. I rested my chin on his shoulder and said gloomily, I wanted to find you, but I didn't know which class you were in. Passing the court, I just wanted to see if you were playing basketball. Besides, is this the kind of ball you can dodge just by watching your step? Suyan seemed a bit exasperated. I'm in class 1, the building next to yours. The next building over was the science block. Class 1 was one of the key classes for each year. My spirits lifted. At least I knew which class he was in now. At the infirmary, the school nurse checked my injury, prescribed some medication to reduce swelling and bruising, and handed me a hot towel, indicating I should apply heat locally. Just as I reached for it, Suyan took it from the nurse first. Let me. He placed the hot towel over my temple, his fingertips gently massaging. His movements were tender, but his expression remained calm. He looked at me. I didn't know if he realized the atmosphere was a bit awkward. But as long as I wasn't awkward, the awkwardness was his. After a while, he finally broke the silence. You really have gotten darker. ... I was speechless. Don't rub it in. I tried hard to find a topic. Brother, were you playing ball this afternoon? Yes. Do you play every day? Suyan found this strange. Sometimes. Why? Coming to hand me water? I tilted my head, thinking I wouldn't mind. Don't come if there's no reason. Steer clear. Get hit again and you can crawl to the infirmary yourself. He said this in a completely flat tone, but I found it oddly delightful. The awkward fog dissipated instantly. Suyan and I aren't real siblings. 2 families merged into one. For me, I feel more like I'm lodging in his house. More than closeness, there's distance, formality. The occasional brother slipped out only when the context fit. Most of the time, I didn't dare call him brother. Looking at his face, I tried hard not to let the words brother escape, but instead, uncontrollably, another sentence came out. Can I come find you when I want to see you? Suyan looked steadily at me, then suddenly laughed an enigmatic laugh. May I ask what you're thinking? My heart skipped a beat. What was I thinking? I wanted to see him. I wanted to see him every day. I looked into his eyes. His expression was faint, even a bit innocent, as if asking me a simple question like what 1 + 1 equals. I want to see my brother, I said, looking away while holding my wound. I told my classmates I have a brother. He's in year 12. Finally, my gaze returned to his face. Aren't you my brother? Suyan raised an eyebrow and leaned in a little closer. So I am your brother. My nose suddenly felt a bit sore. I turned my head away, not wanting to look at him anymore. In that moment, I even wanted to bow and apologize. Sorry. My mistake for presuming. I'll punish myself with 3 drinks. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Right then, Suyan's hand landed on my head and gave it a playful tousle. Take good care of that wound. Don't go bumping into things again. He stood up, looking down at me with lowered eyes. Come if you want. I'm heading back to class now. I nodded dumbly. If I were a puppy, my tail would be wagging furiously right now. Watching Suyan's retreating back, I silently repeated in my heart. Brother. After the uneventful military training ended, an uneventful year 10 life began as scheduled. I occasionally thought about finding Suyan, but I never had a proper reason. Did a sister need a reason to find her brother? But was Suyan my brother? He said, come if you want, but I didn't take it seriously. That's just how he was, always seemingly indifferent, always effortlessly composed. The words he spoke were always light, yet carried weight. On the Friday after the first month ended, I finally stood outside the door of Class 1. Year 12, I was going home with Suyan. Their class wasn't over yet. I didn't dare peek inside to look for him, so I just waited quietly. Finally, noise gradually spilled from the classroom. Leaning on their windowsill, I tried to spot Suyan's figure. He stood out. I didn't need to look hard. I saw him, leaning casually against a desk, stuffing test papers into his bag. I gently tapped the shoulder of the girl nearest to me. Hello, Senior. Could you call Suyan for me? Senior? The girl turned around. She was pretty, with just the right amount of natural sweetness and a perfectly appropriate level of polish. But she looked at me with a strange expression. You're a year 10. Need something from him? I was pondering how to explain. I didn't think Suyan would want to admit he'd inexplicably gained a little sister. When Suyan saw me, I waved at him. He nodded in acknowledgement, slung his bag over one shoulder, and walked out towards me. Seeing Suyan, the girl familiarly patted his shoulder. My birthday's this weekend. You said you'd come, remember? All right. Any more, and it's annoying. By the way, just now a girl was looking for you. Oh, it's her. She pointed at me. Who is this? Suyan walked to my side and loosely draped an arm around my shoulders. He said, She's my sister. My heart beat a little faster. After saying that, Suyan looked down at me. I blinked at him and smiled. When did you get a sister? I didn't know, the girl said. Do you need to know everything? Suyan shot her a sidelong glance and gave a casual wave. Leaving. See you. Hey, little sister. Want to come tomorrow? The girl looked at me with bright eyes. I'm Luo Yang. It's my birthday tomorrow. Wanna come sing karaoke? Struck by this sudden enthusiasm, I was at a loss. I looked at Suyan. He asked me, Do you want to go? It was as if I saw Suyan standing at the entrance to his world, asking if I wanted to come in. I said, Yes. He nodded. Then let's go. Back home, Suyan and I went to our respective rooms. My mother held my hand and talked to me, asking why I'd lost weight, if I was settling in at school. I answered her one by one. The door was open, and I could hear Uncle Su Cheng and Suyan having a fragmented conversation. In the evening, it was just Suyan and me at home again. After hesitating for a while, I finally knocked on his door. The door opened. Before I could even speak, I was stunned. Su Yan had clearly just showered. A towel hung around his neck, his hair was damp, and his upper body was completely bare. What is it? I snapped back to reality. Flustered. I just wanted to ask. For Senior Luo Yang's birthday party tomorrow, do I need to prepare a gift or something? That's up to you. Su Yan started to close the door, then paused. Anything else? Nothing else. He nodded and closed the door. Lying in bed, the night light faintly seeped through the bed canopy. I reached out as if to grab that weak light. It felt more like grabbing some kind of admission ticket. The next day, Su Yan and I set off for the agreed-upon KTV on the 4th floor of Wanhui Plaza. As the elevator slowly rose to the 3rd floor, I said to Su Yan, "You go up first. I'll go buy a gift." He tilted his chin slightly in acknowledgement, silently pressing the open button for me. I wandered around for quite a while choosing a gift. When I finally pushed open the door of the private KTV room, I saw Su Yan and Luo Yang holding microphones, singing a duet. I saw some unfamiliar faces howling and heckling playfully. I felt instantly deflated. Heads turned one by one, seemingly curious. Becoming the sudden focus of everyone's attention made me uncomfortable. Su Yan waved at me, gesturing for me to come over. "Yanjie, brought your girlfriend along, huh?" A guy in a black tank top with a buzz cut teased. "This is my sister," Su Yan acknowledged again. "Oh, family. Gotta keep her close at all times." Someone else laughed. I handed the gift bag to Luo Yang. "Senior, happy birthday." "Thanks, little sis." She smiled sweetly, her eyes crinkling. "Sit down, have some snacks." I sat down next to Su Yan. This kind of wholly unfamiliar, boisterous singing made me feel reserved. I could only stick close to Su Yan. Following him, at least I wouldn't get lost. After a while some were still singing, dice games started on the table, followed by rounds of drinking games. The loser had to choose truth or dare. The noisy environment eased some of my discomfort. Realizing that amidst the banter and fun of this group of old friends, no one was paying me much attention. I felt freer to play my role as an outsider, propping my head up boredly and fiddling with a bottle on the table. "Drink. And at the same time, tell us the most embarrassing thing you've ever done in your life." The guy in the black tank top yelled at another in a blue polo shirt. "The most embarrassing thing is having a son like you." Everyone laughed again. Su Yan then moved my hand away from the bottle and pushed a glass of Sprite towards me, saying casually, "You drink this." I turned my head to look at him. Even when amused, his expression was mild, a slight smile playing on his lips as he watched the two at the center of the commotion. He didn't look at me. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Whoa. Finally, it's Su Yan's turn. The crowd erupted, seemingly having waited for this moment. Even the person singing came over with the microphone. Su Yan's smile widened, even taking on a hint of defiance. Without changing expression, he downed the beer in his glass and wiped the corner of his mouth. The asker posed the most cliched yet ever curious question. "Who do you like?" My heart leapt into my throat. The question brought a brief silence to the table, followed by even more frenzied noise a few seconds later. No one noticed me take a deep, steadying breath. Su Yan tapped his glass with a finger, perfectly calm and collected. "I don't have anyone I like." "What kind of answer is that?" "That's a penalty." The crowd was highly dissatisfied. Wasn't it truth? Su Yan appeared even more innocent. Despite this, he was still egged on to accept a punishment. With the boulder lifted from my heart, I joined in the schadenfreude. Fine, he said, sounding resigned. "Then please, pick any member of the opposite sex present and give them a kiss," the asker said mischievously, and the onlookers eagerly stirred the pot. My eyes widened. I felt my heart was about to crash against a wall. Perhaps it was my imagination, but Su Yan seemed to sense something. He glanced sideways at me. The moment our eyes met, I saw the corner of his mouth quirk up. "Hey, my sister's here. Don't go too far," Su Yan said with a laugh that didn't quite reach his eyes, his voice carrying little warmth. All right. We'll let you off easy this time," perhaps realizing it really wasn't appropriate. Everyone laughed and changed the subject. But Luo Yang, still holding the microphone, suddenly spoke up. Su-yan, it's my birthday today. Could I ask you to sing a song for me? The lights in the room were too dim, but even without seeing clearly, I knew her face was flushed. She hurriedly added, "Consider it my birthday gift." "Brother, don't." I stared into her bright eyes, pleading silently in my heart. The birthday girl has spoken. "Yan Jay, sing us a tune." "Wingman, no." One chimed in. Yeah, sing." "Wingman, no." Two echoed. Su-yan singing for her. What could that mean? What could it signify? Weren't they just singing a love song duet when I arrived? But I just didn't want it. Su-yan's expression remained normal, giving nothing away. He was still smiling. I selfishly thought this smile held a hint of weariness. "So, are you going to agree again amidst all the cheering?" I picked up another microphone lying on the table, tapped it lightly, looked at Luo Yang, and said with a faint smile, "Senior, let me sing a song for you." Su-yan seemed momentarily taken aback. Luo Yang was also stunned. The crowd fell into a deathly silence again, but it didn't immediately liven up. I knew I'd done something foolish. The awkward atmosphere was nearly suffocating. My instinct was to flee. But then Su-yan stood up and walked towards Luo Yang. He took the microphone from her hand. Looking at me, he said, "Let's sing it together then." I was saved. I had saved him, and he had saved me. One chose the song, Wei Yi. I knew Su-yan could sing it. Akusviv was one of his favorite bands. Su-yan sang the first line. His voice was relatively low and a bit magnetic. But now he sang it softly. "Do you really understand the definition of the one?" My body trembled slightly, barely restrained. Looking at him, my heart raced, my throat felt tight, and I took over. "I really love you." Every word not said lightly. "You are my brother. You are Su-yan. I am Su Kiao Kiao. We are bound together for this lifetime. A relationship no one can compare to." As if governed by a strange tacit understanding, we sang line after line, one after the other, without awkwardness, just perfectly. By the end, I could barely see anyone else, only my brother. I softly sang the final line. "You don't want to prove that I am your one and only. Prove that I am your one and only." As the song ended, the room dutifully broke into applause, accompanied by a few whistles. Luo Yang said sweetly, "Thank you." My legs felt weak from standing. My throat was dry. Returning to sit next to Su-yan, I went to take a sip of water, but found him looking at me with a strange expression, one I couldn't decipher. My heart inexplicably skipped a beat. The party wound down to its conclusion. After a round of goodbyes, Su-yan and I walked out of the mall. He walked ahead to hail a taxi, and I got in after him. We sat on opposite sides of the back seat, a large gap between us. He spoke up casually, as if making conversation. "Did you have fun today?" It was a bit boring, but yeah, I had fun." He suddenly turned his head, looking at me seriously. "Why did you come with me today?" "Because it was a rare chance to stay by your side with a clear conscience." My gaze wavered. I pursed my lips. "Because you're my brother." After a moment's thought, I added on my own, "It's not like you don't know. I don't have many friends here, but I want to go out and have fun too." "Am I your brother?" His voice held no inflection. "What does that mean?" Su-yan had acknowledged twice in front of others that I was his sister, and he had asked me this question twice now. But I had learned to respond without changing expression. "Yes, you are my brother. Otherwise, why did you bring me today?" I blinked at him. "Brother, I'm so happy. I really am your sister now, right?" I had thought that after that night, holding that admission ticket, I would naturally step into Su-yan's world. But in reality, he subtly pushed me further and further away. At the dinner table, I would sneak glances at him from time to time. He just ate faster than before, his eyes never once landing on me. Once finished, he pushed his chair back and returned to his room. Helping wash dishes in the kitchen, I picked up the plate of fruit my mother had just cut, and, feeling it was my rightful duty, knocked on Su-yan's door. "Brother, have some fruit. It's freshly cut." I smiled at him, trying hard to do what I thought a sister should do. "Thanks." Without hesitation, Su-yan picked up a bunch of grapes I was more inclined to believe he grabbed them randomly, thanked me, and closed the door. I stood frozen in front of the door, holding the fruit plate, probably looking quite silly. My mother, seeing this, just said curiously, "What are you standing there in a daze for? Go review your lessons. I'm still simmering soup. Come out and have some later." I nodded, masking my disappointment, and could only return to my room. Perhaps I was distracted, because not long after I started studying, my mother knocked on the door, telling me to come out for soup. After I said, "Okay," she walked towards Suyan's room. I paid close attention to the activity over there. After hearing my mother's repeated urging, Suyan came out. He glanced at me, then looked away as if he hadn't seen anything. He sat down, picked up a bowl with one hand and started drinking the soup sip by sip, while his other hand scrolled through his phone screen, his expression seeming very focused. I hoped he would say something. Finally, unable to bear it, I spoke first. "Brother, how are you getting back to school tomorrow?" He seemed to notice only then that someone was sitting opposite him. His gaze shifted from his phone to my face, expressionless. "Bike. Can I go back with you then?" He fell silent again. I pronounced my own death sentence in my heart. Suddenly, I felt utterly deflated. Why was talking to Suyan always so exhausting? I might be a people pleaser, but I'm not socially inept. I could feel that Suyan was even less willing to engage with me than before. Why? Because I went to his friend's birthday party? Or because I grabbed that microphone? Did he actually like Luo Yang? Or perhaps he was dissatisfied with me barging into his world and participating in his life? Was he reminding me that I had overstepped? As I was lost in these chaotic thoughts, Suyan spoke. "Don't you take the bus?" "Yeah, but the bus takes too long. It only comes every 20 minutes. If you don't time it right, it's really easy to be late." After listening, Suyan looked steadily at me. I suspected his next words would be, "Then can't you go earlier?" But he didn't. He just nodded and said, "All right." I was happy again. All those previous worries and confusions vanished. After all, Suyan hadn't refused me. The next day, for the first time, Suyan knocked on my bedroom door. I was brushing my hair. Thinking it was my mother, I had a small hair tie in my mouth, one hand holding my ponytail high, the other opening the door. Upon opening it, I saw Suyan in his school uniform, leaning lazily against the doorframe, looking down at me. "Just checking if Her Highness is ready. We should be leaving soon." I nodded hurriedly to indicate I was ready to go, grabbed my school bag, went to the entrance to change shoes, followed Suyan out, took the lift down to the garage, and watched him unlock his bicycle. He swung his long leg over the bike, hands on the handlebars, turning his head slightly to look at me. "Hop on." I got on the back. He pedaled slowly, exiting the residential compound, effortlessly navigating one alley after another, turning corner after corner. My sense of balance wasn't great. My hands felt awkward, and I could only try to steady myself by holding onto the sides of the small seat. Then, we went over a speed bump. The bike jolted, and my face smashed straight into Suyan's back. His distinct spine bone hit me squarely. It hurt so much I cried out, "Ow!" Suyan paused, slowly braked to a stop by the roadside, planted his feet on the ground, and turned around. Seeing me covering my face, he reached out, moved my hand aside, lifted my chin, and leaned in to look. "Where did you hit?" I pointed to my nose. "It really hurt." Suyan let go of my chin, then pinched my nose lightly, the hint of a smile in his eyes. "It still hurt." I shot him a reproachful look and swatted his hand away. "It hurts like hell. It's probably flattened now." Without changing expression, Suyan simply dropped a line. "Wouldn't have happened if you'd held on tight." Then turned back around and continued riding. Having received this instruction, I no longer held back. I wrapped my arms around his waist and pressed the side of my face against his back. Perhaps it was my imagination, but I felt his back stiffen slightly. Holding on to Suyan, I watched the flow of traffic and the sunset all the way until we finally reached school. It was near evening. The sun wasn't harsh, yet my face was strangely warm. I could imagine, without looking in a mirror, that it was flushed pink. "Let's go." Suyan locked his bike, glanced at me, didn't have any particular reaction. Nor did he make any ill-timed teasing remarks. On one hand, I consoled myself that it was probably just a bit hot. My face wasn't really red. On the other hand, my heart grew even more flustered. We walked side by side, without extra words, towards the teaching block, when a voice called out from behind. Su Kiao Kiao. Both Su Yan and I turned around. It was my roommate, Tan Men Yao. I remembered her well because she was an art student, studying broadcasting. Her looks, figure and voice were all outstanding. She saw me, and also saw Su Yan beside me, and paused for a second. Kiao Kiao, let's go back to the classroom together in a bit. Who's this? With a girlish skip, she came forward and affectionately linked her arm with mine. I wasn't good at dealing with this kind of instant familiarity. A bit awkwardly I replied, "This is my brother." "Oh, the brother you mentioned in the dorm." Her soft exclamation made me even more embarrassed. I couldn't see Su Yan's expression at that moment. He didn't say anything. Tan Mengyao smiled radiantly and said to Su Yan, "Hello, brother. You're really handsome." My heart felt blocked, suffocated and uncomfortable. "Who's your brother?" I turned to look at Su Yan. He glanced back at me, raised an eyebrow, smiled at Tan Mengyao, patted my head and said, "I'm off." I nodded, feeling a bit dazed. We were becoming more and more like real siblings. That was something to be happy about, right? On the way back to class, Tan Mengyao chatted away about a bunch of things, but I felt annoyed. Finally, at the stairwell, she suddenly stopped, looked at me with an utterly serious expression, and said, "Kiao Kiao, you don't mind if I try to pursue your brother, do you?" I looked at her face. The sunset cast a dreamy glow on it, a kind of breathtaking beauty. But I smiled, knowing full well my smile was ugly. With an equally serious expression, I said to her, "You won't succeed." She paused for a moment but didn't seem to take my words to heart. She just blinked at me, smiled, said, "We'll see," and turned to go upstairs. I walked slowly, feeling caught in an absurd sense of detachment, followed by a wave of inexplicable panic, which then gradually subsided into calm. I told myself, what is there to be afraid of? The days that followed were too ordinary to be worth narrating. Su Yan and I met occasionally, went home regularly, and life settled into a quiet rhythm. Until one day at home, at the dining table with just the two of us, I casually asked, "Brother, did you sign up for anything for the sports day? 50-meter dash, 1,000-meter run, relay. Oh. So athletic." Su Yan looked up and asked me, "And you?" I answered frankly, "Long jump." He feigned surprise. "That's impressive. Not as impressive as you." His praise, which bordered on perfunctory, made me feel a bit self-conscious. "I'm just filling a spot for the class." Su Yan froze for a second, then laughed. "Well, be careful not to trip and fall." A friendly conversation. A warm atmosphere. I poked at a few grains of white rice in my bowl with my chopsticks, squishing them flat, then rolling them round. As I said, "You know my physique isn't suited for those long-distance events. I'll come cheer for you during your races then." His reply was straightforward. "Yeah." It was until the day of his actual race that I realized I was hardly the only one there to cheer him on. Su Yan was registering. A crowd had already gathered outside the registration tent, some familiar faces like Luo Yang, and others I'd seen at the KTV, and many I didn't know at all, both boys and girls. I looked around, confirming Tan Mingyao wasn't among them, and felt slightly relieved. A moment later, I was annoyed at myself for that small-minded thought. For her, it probably really was just a joke. Taking it too seriously made me look stupid. When Su Yan finally stood on the starting line, the area beside the track was packed. Everyone was shouting cheers for the athletes they were watching. I kept my eyes fixed on Su Yan, watching him rotate his ankles and do some simple warm-ups. I didn't dare shout out. And then Tan Mingyao's voice reached my ears. "Su Yan, go for it. You're the best." Her delicate, high-pitched voice stood out amidst the general clamor. I looked towards her. She was wearing the white gown from the opening ceremony, where she played a princess, with meticulous makeup and a small tiara on her head. She stood out strikingly among the sea of school uniforms. A girl like that undoubtedly attracted everyone's attention. Her shout of encouragement, however, dropped a bombshell among another group Su Yan's classmates. Mingling with their cheers, I started loudly teasing. Su-yan, the campus bell is here to cheer for you. I wanted to look at Su-yan, but before I could turn my head back, the starting pistol fired. A figure flashed past in front of me, leaving only a gust of wind. The cheering erupted fiercely at that moment, and the crowd jogged along towards the finish line. My eyes were glued to Su-yan's figure. 50 meters is short. It was over in a flash. Su-yan was the first to cross the line. I didn't go over, but I saw Tan Men-yao go. She handed Su-yan a bottle of water. Su-yan took it. Maybe they exchanged a few words. Maybe Su-yan had already remembered her from that day. I didn't look anymore. I turned and left because it was my turn to compete. I walked towards the long jump pit. I'd been volunteered for this. Almost everyone in the class knew I'd come last, so I felt no pressure. I stood at the start line, took my run up, jumped, and nearly planted my head into the sandpit, twisting my ankle badly due to poor form. Pain. Embarrassment. The sporadic bursts of cheering from afar felt alien to me. Perhaps because this was expected, or perhaps because I remained too calm. No one seemed to notice anything was wrong. They just assumed I was out, waiting for me to struggle to my feet and leave the pit before announcing the next competitor. I sat down to rest outside a tent, suddenly feeling a bit tired. Young hearts belong to sport. Young hearts belong to pursuit. The rising and falling voice of a female announcer read out encouragement letters over the loudspeaker. The stands were a dark mass of seated students. On the track, the wind whipped at the corners of sprinting boys' uniforms. Youth. Passion. Exuberance. Glory. And I just sat here, watching quietly. Want some water? Someone spoke to me. I looked up. It was Si Chen, a classmate. He was handing me a bottle of sports drink. I was thirsty, but I didn't take it, just smiled at him. No, thanks. The parent committee ordered them. The teacher asked me to hand them out to the athletes. I figured you probably hadn't gotten yours yet. He simply placed the bottle on the ground in front of me, but sat down right beside me. I was a bit confused, but he spoke first. I saw you twist your ankle just now. Doesn't it hurt? It's okay. Not too bad, I said politely, accepting the concern. You did great, he said softly. Thank you. I also said softly. I know I didn't. Zi-chan was very talkative, though I couldn't remember having any real conversation with him before this. We sat there chatting idly, though most of the time he was the one keeping the conversation going. He was handsome, with a gentle temperament, like a sunny big brother from a kids' show, able to take thoughtful care of everyone around him. Perhaps it was his innate down-person radar that led him precisely to me, sitting dazedly in the corner. Come on, don't just sit here. Let me take you to the infirmary to get that checked. Zi-chen seemed to think we were familiar enough now. He took my hand, stood up, and bent down to speak to me. To refuse again would be ungracious. So I nodded. He carefully held my wrist, walking slowly, as we headed towards the infirmary. But on the way, a voice suddenly called out, Hey, Su-yan, isn't that your sister? I stopped. It really is Kayao. Little Kayao. Luo Yang's voice. I turned around. Su-yan was walking in the middle of a few people, surrounded as if being ushered. His expression was mild. He looked at me, looked at my hand held by Zi-chen. In his own hand was that bottle of water Tan Men-yao had given him. He took a few steps forward, looking at my clearly compromised stance. What happened? Nothing, I said. She twisted her ankle during her event just now. I was going to take her to the infirmary. Zi-chen also explained. Su-yan nodded to show he understood but didn't reply to Zi-chen. He just looked at me, his gaze inscrutable. He said, You're going to walk to the infirmary like that? I didn't answer. He threw the water bottle in a parabola to someone beside him, turned around, and crouched down. Get on. I'll take you. His tone brooked no refusal, but I felt like refusing. No need. I'll go with him. We're in the same class. I patted Zi-chen's arm and said as if it were nothing. Su-yan turned his face to look at me for a long moment. Finally, he stood up, but then took a few more steps closer to me. Looking down, it felt more like a stare, like a deep lake. I'd always thought deep lakes were more terrifying than deep oceans. His voice was low. Are you dating someone? He seemed to be asking in earnest, the atmosphere around him growing heavy. I didn't answer, and for a moment, no one spoke. By all rights, Zichen, that little sunbeam, should have stepped forward with his spring breeze warmth and signature smile, telling Suyan we were just classmates helping each other out. But he stayed silent too. I felt awkward, but a stubborn defiance coiled inside me, and I stared back at Suyan, refusing to back down. Why did you take Tan Mengyao's water? Do you like her? I went to cheer for you. Why didn't you see me? And what right do you have to care whether I'm dating or not? In the end, this battle I'd imagined was called off by a light chuckle from Suyan. He took a step back, nodding thoughtfully. All right, you two go ahead. Then he turned and walked away. Watching his retreating figure, I vaguely felt something leaving with him. Si-chan came up and patted my shoulder, saying softly, Come on, let's get that leg scene too. I nodded, my voice hoarse as I thanked him. On the way, Si-chan cautiously asked, Is he your brother? I mumbled an, mem. He chuckled, almost to himself. I thought he was your boyfriend at first. Why? You know about the territorial instinct in male felines. They establish their territory, and if another of their kind intrudes, the dominant one will issue warnings or even attack. Zichen gave me a meaningful look. The way he looked at me just now, it was like I'd taken something of his. I didn't reply, pretending only partial understanding, but my heart was racing uncontrollably. Did Suyan feel territorial about me? After a basic treatment for my leg injury, Zichen went off to attend to other athletes, leaving me completely free. I drifted through the sports field in a daydream, inconspicuous among the bustling, cheering crowd. I'd memorized all of Suyan's race times. For the 1,000 meters, I didn't show up at the starting line to cheer him on. He wouldn't have seen me anyway. First lap, he kept a steady pace, following the leaders. Second lap, he gradually accelerated, overtaking them one by one. For the final 200-meter sprint, I stood at the finish line. This time, I had brought a bottle of water too. Not for him. I'd already drunk half of it myself because I was thirsty. I watched Suyan cross the finish line, the boy swift as a galloping horse raising its sails. The crowd surged towards him. Tan Mengyao patted his back, her face alight with joy, cheering him as the winner. Suyan smiled, breathing heavily, tugging at his sweat-soaked shirt, drenched from head to toe. This time, he didn't take the water Tan Mengyao offered, probably because he saw me before he could. I watched them from a not too far, not too close distance, but unexpectedly met his gaze. I smiled at him and walked over, acting as if I'd just happened to pass by. Wow, you came first. He looked at me impassively. You saw? Very naturally, I said. They were shouting so loudly I heard it. One eyebrow lifted slightly. He reached out directly, took the water bottle from my hand, unscrewed the cap, and tipped his head back to drink. I was stunned. He downed the remaining half in one go, then shook the empty bottle, blinking with an innocent expression. Do you still want it? I rolled my eyes at him. Seeing Tan Mengyao approaching to greet us, I said, You threw the rubbish yourself, and made to move past him. He stretched out an arm to block me. Where are you going? I looked up at him. To cheer for someone else. With that, I tried to sidestep him. He suddenly grabbed my arm, pulling me back to his side. Forced to stand next to him, I found his arm draped over my shoulders, though his face showed no expression. I'm your brother. Cheer for me. You don't need to bother with anyone else. Seeing our familiar, close stance, Tan Mingyao's expression flickered strangely for a second, before her smile brightened again. Kiao, I heard you hurt your leg in the long jump. Is it better now? I nodded. It's fine. She seemed genuinely concerned. That's good. What place did you get? I said flatly. Last. Suyan glanced down at me and gave a soft chuckle. Tan Mengyao laughed too, her laughter tinged with awkwardness. Oh, that's all right. Better lap next time. I was fine with it anyway. I shook off Suyan's hand and was about to leave when his voice fell by my ear. Wait for me at the school gate this afternoon. Got it. After the sports day was the weekend. We'd still go home together. I didn't go to Suyan's final relay race. As the sports day wound down, I helped Zichen pack things up at the class base. Through the medal announcements on the PA system, I knew he'd won first place again. Your brother's quite something, Zichen complimented from beside me. After the closing ceremony, we had a brief class meeting where the teacher officially dismissed us. I walked to the school gate. Suyan was already there, holding his bike steady, waiting. Just as we were about to leave, Tan Minyao's voice called from behind again. Kiao Kiao. Wait. She jogged over, a camera in her hand, smiling sweetly at Suyan. Senior, could I take a photo with you? It was common to take commemorative photos after the sports day. Suyan, seemingly accustomed to such requests, replied indifferently, Sure. Tan Mengyao handed me the camera. Could you take it for us, please? I smiled and took it, stepping back a few paces to frame the shot. Tan Mengyao stood almost glued to him, tilting her head and making a heart shape with her hands. Suyan didn't even pose. He just stood there, looking at the lens, expression neutral. I didn't bother to focus properly, just clicked the shutter casually. If I could have, I might have switched the lens and taken a selfie instead. Tan Mengyao took the camera back, looked at the photo, and pouted. It's blurry. I was about to say something, but Suyan cut in directly. It's fine. We're leaving now. He turned and wheeled his bike away. On the way home, I hummed a tune under my breath, a little habit of mine to avoid awkward silences. Suyan spoke up first from ahead. Are you really dating someone? I could have simply denied it, but for some reason I answered, What if I am? He said nothing. Only after we'd passed 2 intersections did he break the silence again. Someone in your class? This time I was the silent one. The bike stopped. He turned to look at me. That boy who took you to the medical room. Do you like him? Worried about getting tangled in my own words, I put on a weary expression. I don't. He kept staring at me, with an intensity that felt almost focused, yet his gaze remained detached. You can't tell me the truth. Do you really want my truth? Seeing me stay silent, he seemed amused, speaking offhandedly. You're not worried I'll tell your mum, are you? I smiled too, saying quietly, Don't you know who I like? Suyan and I hadn't spoken for a long time since that last conversation. I remember then. He fell silent for a good while before turning away, seeming to pour all his attention onto the road ahead. Later, we got home, went to our respective rooms. At dinner time, a rare occurrence of all 4 of us sitting together. Su Cheng, stern-faced, told lame jokes. Mum gently chimed in from the side, occasionally serving food to Su Yan and me. A family of 4, Dad and Mum, brother and sister. Su Yan showed no particular reaction, almost none at all. He spoke little, and no longer politely thanked my mum. Mum, however, seemed satisfied. She saw it as a sign of perfect integration for our blended family. But she didn't know her envisioned perfect family had been ruined by me, after my foolish confession. I told Su Yan I liked him. It wasn't stated outright, but he must have understood. He gave no response. Perhaps our relationship wasn't truly sibling-like enough for him to feel the need to gently tell me it was wrong, that he was my brother. He simply avoided it entirely, acting as if I didn't exist. No one found this odd. It fit his aloof persona perfectly. Only I knew something between us had changed. If it were an ordinary schoolgirl's advances, he could have handled it with ease. But I was his stepsister, living under the same roof. Barring accidents, our lives were inextricably linked from now on. Perhaps that's why he saw me as a complication. I went to find him once, late at night. Standing outside his door, hesitating, I finally tapped a rhythmic pattern lightly on the wood with my fingernail. The sound was soft. If he didn't hear it, so be it. Su Yan eventually opened the door. His room was dark, a dim yellow light spilling from within. He stood before me, a dark silhouette, his expression unreadable. Yes? The question was too pointed. I opened my mouth, not knowing how to answer. Don't you know what's happened between us? I don't want it to be like this, I began, only to find my voice hoarse. Like what? He seemed not to understand. I took a deep breath and blurted it out. I don't want you ignoring me. Su Yan gave a short laugh. Am I? He was always like this, so dismissive. Suddenly, I felt like a wild beast roaring across an empty plain. Nothing echoed back but my own cry, leaving me exhausted and alone. A wave of grievance rose in my chest. I turned my head away, nearly crying. Yes, you know you are. He suddenly reached out, gripping my chin, forcing me to look up at him. He leaned in close. This time, I could see his expression inscrutable, unreadable. His voice lowered. What our relationship is. You know better than anyone. His words, pressed down on me one by one, made it hard to breathe. I regretted it, ready to surrender, even wanting to turn and flee. I calmed myself, steadying my breath and heartbeat, and looked up at him. I do like you. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'll change. We didn't go home together anymore, nor did we eat together. At first, if Suyan skipped a meal, I did too, going hungry for many nights in a row. Later, once when I left school late, I saw him and Tang Yang walking out of the canteen, laughing and talking. Only then did I start going into the kitchen to throw something together for myself. The hardest times were when it was just the two of us at home. I inevitably ran into him. Even if I tried not to look at him, his overpowering presence would stir up my shame and embarrassment. Once, I felt a dull ache in my abdomen. As soon as I squatted in the toilet, a warm flow left my body. My period had come early. I was stunned. It was my first irregular cycle, and I hadn't thought to carry sanitary products. A belated sense of cramping and heaviness settled in, blood trickling out intermittently. Only Suyan was home. After an agonized hesitation, I finally called out, "Jay." No response. "Suyan." I heard a door open. A few seconds later, 2 knocks sounded on the bathroom door. "What is it?" Gritting my teeth, I said, "Could you get me a sanitary pad? They're on the second shelf of my desk." I waited, holding my breath. After a moment, 2 more knocks. Suyan's voice betrayed no emotion. On the floor. He practiced energy conservation with me. Unnecessary words were omitted. Essential ones boiled down to the minimum. Even so, my heart raced uncontrollably. There were many such incidents. Whenever I tried to search for traces of him moving closer in the minutiae of daily life, that night, that spell-like whisper, would come rushing back like a nightmare. What our relationship is, you know better than anyone. Unbearable. To shatter the illusions, to avoid seeing him, I applied for boarding in my second year of high school. I told Mum, if there's nothing on at the weekend, I'll stay at school to study. I won't come home. The method proved effective. After throwing myself completely into studying, my life seemed to lighten. Fixed schedules for classes, meals, sleep, regular calls with Mum, though I still hadn't made many friends. Unfortunately, I still heard about Suyan from time to time through Tan Mengyao. She would link arms with me affectionately during pay, asking with a smile, "Kiao Kiao, does your brother have someone he likes? Can you share his playlist with me? What kind of girls does he like? Would he get annoyed if someone kept pestering him?" And I would only disengage my arm expressionlessly and reply, "I don't know." I didn't know how far things had progressed between them, nor did I want to. Her chattering annoyed me. Finally, when she rushed at me, eyes red, shouting, "Why does Suyan keep stringing me along like this?" I looked into her eyes and said, vindictively, "I told you long ago, you can't catch him. My brother won't like you. He and I are the closest in the world." The words out, I felt a perverse thrill. Tan Mengyao stared at me, dazed. Su Kiao Kiao. You're mad. After that day, my peaceful days were over. Things like completed homework disappearing, belongings spilling from my bag, caused real trouble but were bearable. Until one day after school, I found a dead cockroach in my desk drawer. I wasn't actually afraid of cockroaches. In that damp, dark rented room from my childhood, when Mum wasn't home, I was the one who dealt with them. Holding the cockroach, I walked to Tan Mengyao's desk, tapped her shoulder, and before she could react, shoved it down the back of her collar. "Ah!" She leapt up, shrieking piercingly. I had no doubt the whole building heard. "Sukiao, are you insane?" Her friend number 1 yelled angrily, helping to pull at her uniform. "What a lunatic." Friend number 2 pushed me hard, sending the corner of a desk slamming into my tailbone. After extracting the cockroach with the help of others, Tan Mengyao stormed over and slapped me across the face. She looked down at me as if at something filthy, enunciating each word. You pervert. Falling for your own brother. The voice wasn't loud, but enough for everyone present to hear. The words felt like another slap. Tears sprang to my eyes involuntarily. I heard the buzz of around the classroom. Even so, I didn't forget to grab a nearby stainless steel water bottle and hurl it at her before running out, heedless of everything. Running blindly, I crashed straight into someone. The impact hurt, but I still didn't look up, muttering a hurried sorry, desperate just to get away. But as I stepped away, someone grabbed my arm. I looked up into a pair of familiar, indifferent eyes. I hadn't seen him in a very, very long time. Our long-awaited reunion was under these circumstances. Suyan was clearly taken aback for a moment. I instinctively covered my face, hiding the tear tracks and the slap mark. What happened? He asked. Seeing I didn't speak, he softened his tone, using a voice almost meant for negotiation. Kiakia, what's wrong? My heart ached with a sharp, splintering pain, like a dam holding back a flood cracking open. I couldn't hold back any longer. Looking up, I said hoarsely, Jay, I want to go home. Tears kept flowing. I came to take you home. We're going to a hot spring resort a friend of Dad's is opening for a trial run this weekend. Auntie told me to pick you up. Suyan reached out and wiped away my tears, his thumb gently brushing the slapped side of my face. First tell me, who hit you? His tone carried a trace of barely concealed ferocity. Tan Mengyao had followed me out. Seeing Suyan, her face turned pale. She stood rooted to the spot, watching us in silence. Suyan saw her and frowned. Was it her? Before I could speak, Tan Mengyao sneered first. You might want to ask your sister why she threw a cockroach at me. Suyan smiled too, walking towards her. Is there a need to ask? She took a slap from you. I'll get it back for her. Seems fair. My eyes widened, unable to believe Suyan would lay a hand on a girl in front of everyone. I rushed forward in a few steps to grab his arm while saying to her, someone put that cockroach in my desk. And the missing homework, the bag turned upside down, the disgusting words written in chalk on the desk. If you don't mind, I can go to the office and get the surveillance footage. Suyan stopped in front of her, his voice flat. How boring. I saw a flash of shock and fear cross Tan Mengyao's face, but she still forced a smile. Boring? I think it's quite interesting. Suyan, you don't know, do you? Your sister is a monster. She likes you. The two of you are the closest in the world. It's hilarious. I felt my blood freeze. Hearing this, Suyan raised an eyebrow slightly, reached out, and pulled me into his embrace. Well, she's not wrong. Then, ignoring Tan Mengyao's dazed, almost lost expression, he said firmly, you know now, so stay away from her. Don't start trouble. Otherwise, given the stunts you've pulled, making you leave this school wouldn't be too difficult. After a pause, he added, his volume normal again. Those snacks and notes, stop sending them to me. I've already made myself clear to you once. With that, he took my hand and we left. I was half pulled along, stumbling. Suyan turned his head, saying helplessly, walk properly. Only then did I stiffly move my legs. Even after getting on the bike, I hadn't fully processed it. I asked him blankly, was what you just said true? Suyan didn't answer, silently riding ahead. Only when we reached the building, parked the bike, did he speak. His tone wasn't as unperturbed as before, but carried a trace of something I couldn't decipher, helplessness perhaps. Su Kiao, I am your brother. We can't. I hadn't been home for ages. Mum and Su Cheng were bustling about in the kitchen, chatting and laughing. Seeing me return, Mum first picked up a piece of braised meat from a plate with her fingers and fed it to me, smiling. Finally decided to come home. Uncle Su Cheng prepared this especially for you. I opened my mouth and swallowed, blinking. Thank you, Uncle, it's delicious. Su Cheng smiled and patted my head. Glad you like it. Why are your eyes swollen? If you get tired studying at school, come home more often. We'll be waiting for you. Suyan took a can of Coke from the fridge and went back to his room. I nodded at Su Cheng, said, okay, and followed suit. The ice between Su-Yan and me had broken. Everything returned to how it was before that night. The family ate meals together as usual, went out as usual. Walking on the street, he would pull me to his side, away from the road. We both tacitly avoided mentioning that matter. The night before returning to school, I took a bowl of fruit and my maths exam paper and knocked on Su-Yan's door. Su-Yan opened the door, his eyes sweeping over the fruit bowl. Surprisingly, he didn't refuse. I watched him pick up a sliced mango and said, "Jay, there are some questions I don't understand. Can I come in?" Su-Yan didn't speak, just looked at me. After a few seconds, he pulled the door fully open, leaning against the doorframe, silently indicating I could enter. Once inside, I directly handed the exam paper to him, grinning. "Take a look first." Su-Yan took it. Ignoring him, I walked around his room. Su-Yan's room layout was similar to mine, just slightly larger. He had a big display cabinet with different compartments holding a basketball, Gundam models, and various trendy sneakers. A switch showing a game interface lay on the sofa. The style wasn't much different from an ordinary boy's room. I opened his bookcase, picked up a copy of Journey Under the Midnight Sun, and started flipping through it. When I returned to him, he handed the paper back. The blank spaces were now filled with his writing, and he had even corrected 2 of my multiple-choice answers. I carefully reread the questions, picked up my pen, and worked through them again, realizing my original answers were indeed wrong. Before I could speak, Su-Yan had picked up the switch again, sitting on the sofa. He said flatly, "Go back and figure out the logic yourself. If you still don't understand, ask again." I quickly said, "I'll look at it here." Truthfully, I hadn't really intended to ask about the questions seriously. This was the simplest of all my exam papers, and I had already worked out the answers on scratch paper. Su-Yan lifted his eyelids slightly. "Suit yourself." After a while, feeling drowsy, I left the desk and sat next to Su-Yan, watching him play his game. He showed no particular reaction. Watching him, I gently rested my head on his shoulder, half closing my eyes. Su-Yan glanced down at me, his hand still operating the controls. "Not going back to sleep?" My voice was low. "A little longer." He said nothing. I murmured again, "Jay, do you like me?" He remained silent. Just before sinking completely into sleep, I asked one last question. "If not now, then when can we?" When I opened my eyes the next morning, I was lying in my own bed. After washing up and packing, I shouldered my backpack and was about to put on my shoes when I saw Su-Yan waiting by the front door. A surge of joy rushed through me. I tied my shoelaces hastily, hearing him say, "Lock the door. I'll wait for you downstairs." Before parting at the school bike shed, he straightened my uniform collar for me, like a real older brother, and ruffled my hair not particularly gently. "If you're wronged, remember to tell me." I blinked, an inexplicable pang of sadness hitting me. I didn't answer. He reached out, tilting my chin up, his tone brooking no argument. "Do you hear me?" "I hear you," I said softly. For the rest of the term, things were much easier for me. No one really troubled me again. Tan Mengyao took a 3-month leave of absence, missing even the final exams. And I didn't go looking for Su-Yan. What lay between us wasn't something a simple confession or a nod could resolve. Even without blood ties, I shouldn't have harbored that hope, inviting wounds by tangling with forbidden thorns. During the summer holiday after second year, Su-Yan was only home for half a month before returning to school early to join the battle camp for the university entrance exams. During those 2 weeks, we went to an amusement park once. Even Su Cheng patted his shoulder and said, looking more and more like a proper older brother. A giant mascot charged 20 yuan to take 2 Polaroids of us. In them, I was making a peace sign in one and a heart shape in the other. Su-Yan stood beside me, looking at the camera expressionlessly. I gave him the one with the heart shape. My eyes curved. "You keep one, I keep one. You take the nicer one." Su-Yan chuckled and accepted it. Before leaving, we went to the wishing tree hung with bottles of wishes. I took a slip of paper and wrote carefully. After hanging mine up, I noticed he was just leaning against the railing, watching me. Curious, I asked, "Don't you have any wishes?" Su-Yan mimicked me, tilting his head, Pretending to be curious. Will writing it down make it come true? I nodded. Maybe. Suyan stretched out an arm, casually draping it over my shoulders. And you? What did you write? I grinned foolishly at him, not answering. He didn't press further. Time flew. When Suyan was taking his exams, I was still in class. We met again in Su Cheng's car. Right after my final exams ended, Su Cheng and Mum drove to pick me up. To celebrate the end of Suyan's exams, they decided to go out for a meal in a private room, a sort of coming-of-age celebration for Suyan. When I opened the rear car door, Suyan was leaning against the window, propping his head up, looking over at me sideways. I called out, "Jay." He responded with an then silence the whole way. I sat in the car, Suyan and I on opposite sides with a distance between us, listening to Su Cheng analyze potential universities and majors for the entire journey. That night, Suyan drank a lot. Even drunk, he was quiet, not saying much. When he looked at me, there seemed to be more weight in his gaze, or so I liked to think, privately. In the early hours of the morning, I sneaked downstairs to buy some hangover remedy, brought up a glass of water and knocked on his door again. He must have slept a bit. When he opened the door, his eyes were momentarily unfocused. Seeing me, he said hoarsely, "Kiao Kiao." I kept my voice soft. "Take this, you'll feel better." He took the glass from me, pulled me into his embrace in one swift motion. I felt his hot breath on my neck, heard him mutter, "I missed you." Suyan didn't push me away, just lay on the bed resting with his eyes closed, not saying anything. For a long while, I couldn't be sure if he was really asleep. I cautiously climbed onto the bed, leaned close to listen to his steady breathing, then rested my head on his shoulder. When I opened my eyes again, it was already morning, and I was in Suyan's room. I turned my head. He still had his eyes closed. I softly called out, "Jay," but got no response. I started to get out of bed quietly, but before my feet touched the floor, Suyan spoke, his voice gravelly from sleep. "Where are you going?" Before I could answer, a knock sounded at the door. Mum called from outside. "Zhao Yan, are you awake?" My heart had never beaten so fast. I looked at Suyan pleadingly. He opened his eyes, looking at me with something akin to amusement. Mum knocked again. Suyan responded. "Wait a moment." My breathing grew rapid. I even considered hiding under the bed. Just as I was about to act on it, Suyan pulled me back, pressed my shoulders down, signaling me to lie still, and casually pulled the duvet over me completely. I heard him go to open the door. Heard Mum's voice. "I made you some millet porridge," Auntie did. "Drank too much last night. Need to take care of your stomach. I'll bring it in." Suyan only said, "Thank you, Auntie," and didn't stop her. Perhaps this was his idea of mischief. By then I was completely numb, not daring to breathe. Mum's voice came again, very close now. "When Kiao Kiao gets up, have her eat some too. Your dad and I are heading out first." Suyan responded flatly. "All right." Only when I heard the door close again did I dare peek out from under the covers. I saw Suyan leaning against the door, arms crossed, a slight smile playing on his lips as he looked at me, enunciating each word clearly. Just like having an affair. We had an entire summer holiday of seeing each other day in, day out, with a new, unsettling yet intimate openness between us. I thought these were rare, golden days in my life, until Suyan received his acceptance letter from his first-choice university, a top-tier institution in a neighboring province, and I was about to enter my final year of high school. The night before Suyan left for university registration, Su Cheng spoke earnestly at the dinner table. "Don't slack off just because you're in university. Be serious when you need to be." Mum chimed in gently. "Don't make the atmosphere so soon. Zhao Yan is at the age to date. If you find someone suitable, bring them home for us to meet." Hearing this, I instinctively glanced up at him. Our eyes met, but my heart slowly sank. After dinner, Su Cheng went out with Mum for their square dancing. Suyan was washing dishes in the kitchen. I went up behind him and wrapped my arms around him gently. "Jay, you're leaving tomorrow. Isn't there anything you want to say to me?" Suyan was silent for a few seconds before finally speaking, his tone giving away nothing. "Study hard. Call me if anything happens. I am your brother. You're not. We're not related by blood at all. I couldn't help but interrupt him. I heard Su-yan turn the tap on, then off. He turned around, looking down at me. Am I not? He had used this rhetorical question before, only back then he had asked, Am I your brother? I stared back at him in silent confrontation. Finally, Su-yan let out a long sigh, reached out, and tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. He said, Take care of yourself. Final year was hectic, an endless race against time. I came home less and less. Even during the summer holidays, we didn't meet when I was home. Su-yan was at a summer camp. When he returned, I had already gone back to school early. The entire year felt both long and short, reducible to the phrase, 3 points and a line. Dorm classroom canteen. I didn't have much energy to think about anything else. By the end, I was almost convinced I had forgotten Su-yan. I ended up getting into a good university in our home province, no need for a high-speed train to get home. I didn't want to go too far. When we met again, Su-yan hadn't changed much, just shed some of the keep-your-distance aura of his youth. Another long summer holiday. We were like a pair of siblings who had grown tired of each other. I no longer knocked on his door. In the matter of not speaking unless absolutely necessary, we shared a strange, unspoken, tacit understanding. Truthfully, I was the one who deliberately maintained this distance. Over 365 days, I had grown accustomed to not letting my heart flutter for him. I was too afraid of that elusive, intangible feeling, unwilling to stumble and repeat the same painful cycle. On every tormenting long night, I hypnotized myself. Liking Su-yan was a dangerous thing. And now, it seemed, I had succeeded. Su-yan simply cooperated with indifference, showing no particular reaction. If I didn't speak, he didn't either. If I had something to discuss, he kept strictly to the matter at hand. I truly thought we would continue like this, like ordinary siblings in an ordinary family. Until the night during the New Year holiday when I brought my new boyfriend home for dinner. Like countless freshmen stepping into university life, I joined some clubs and societies that interested me, made some like-minded friends, and naturally, in the process, started dating someone Tang Lin, a senior student who had been my orientation mentor. After Mum found out, she suggested bringing him home for a meal during the winter break. With Tang Lin's agreement on New Year's Eve, I brought him home. Tang Lin wasn't shy. He was quite talkative, and the atmosphere at the table was good. Only when I saw him off downstairs did he whisper to me, Your older brother is quite intimidating. I could barely speak properly under his gaze. I smiled, said nothing and watched him get into the taxi. Back in my room, I went about my routine as usual. Showered, went back to my room. Did my own thing. A knock sounded at the door. Thinking it was Mum, I opened it to find Su-yan's somewhat gloomy face. I was taken aback, just as I was about to ask, What is it? Before I could react, Su-yan had already stepped into my room, locked the door behind him, pinned me against the door, leaned in until his forehead touched mine, and spoke in a slightly hoarse voice. That question you asked me a year ago. I can answer it now. My heart pounded wildly, as if an ancient call had awakened something within my very genes. I tried hard to recall what question I had asked a year ago, but Su-yan gave me no time to think. He reached out, gripped my chin, forcing me to look up at him. Weren't you always the one trailing after me? The clothes you're wearing are mine. The scent is mine. The heart is mine too. Why be with someone else? By the end, I saw his eyes reddening. Didn't you like me? The oversized sleep shirt I was wearing was Su-yan's. One summer, under the pretext of mixing up the laundry, I had shamelessly claimed it from him. He had merely said expressionlessly, Suit yourself. The scent on me came from the body wash I used to steal from Su-yan. Later, finding I liked it, I begged Mum to buy the same product every time we went shopping. I had held on to these habits for so long that I didn't even consciously realize they came from Su-yan. So long that I had to make an effort to trace their origins. His fingers wound around the hair by my ear, his thumb stroking my cheek. Su-kiao, I don't want to be your brother anymore. I felt like crying. I had waited so long for these words, yet now they felt utterly untimely. I tried to speak, but my throat felt blocked, only managing to utter the word, Shay. Su-Yan used a tone that was almost pleading. Didn't you ask me before, when can we? He paused, then continued. We can now. Perhaps the distance between us was too close. Perhaps his eyes held an unfamiliar intensity. I felt breathless. I placed my hands on his chest, trying to steady myself. Gathering my thoughts, I took a deep breath, looked directly into his eyes, and said very seriously, enunciating each word, Jay, I have a boyfriend now. I saw the light in his eyes dim by half. That fervor had completely dissipated, replaced by the familiar, detached clarity of memory. He let go of me, even took half a step back, as if only then realizing what he had just said. He said softly to me, I'm sorry. I forced a smile, trying to sound light-hearted. No need to be sorry. I'm doing very well now. I listened to you, studied hard, made lots of friends. I blinked at him, just like old times. Jay, I've been good, haven't I? Su-Yan gave a self-deprecating laugh. He raised his hand and ruffled my hair, his touch gentle. You've always been good. We stood facing each other for a moment. Only silence between us. Finally, Su-Yan said to me, Get some rest. I smiled. Okay, good night. Su-Yan left. My heartbeat didn't calm down. I sat on the bed in a daze, wanting to carefully recall what had just happened, when my attention was caught by a photo on the floor. I bent down to pick it up. It was an instant photo, stamped with the amusement park's logo, but it wasn't either of the two from back then. In the picture, Su-Yan and I were standing back to back with the camera, leaning against each other looking up at fireworks. There were quite a few people around. Su-Yan's arm was casually draped over my shoulder, as if afraid I'd get lost. From this angle, it looked like he was holding me. These fireworks overlapped with the ones from my memory of that summer holiday. Who took this photo? Why didn't I know about it? Did Su-Yan secretly ask someone to take it? Why? I didn't dare think too deeply. With each question that popped into my mind, the dull ache in my heart intensified. In the end, I couldn't hold back anymore. I crouched on the floor, covered my face, and wept. I took the photo and knocked on Su-Yan's door, just like I had many times before. He opened the door. Seeing me, a flicker of surprise crossed his face before it quickly returned to normal. Why are you crying? He asked. I didn't answer. I mimicked his earlier action, stepping into the room first, closing the door behind me. I took out the photo and handed it to him. You dropped something. Su-Yan glanced at it, his expression stiffening slightly, but he reached out to take it. Just as his fingertips were about to touch it, I pulled the photo back slightly. I asked him, Why did you secretly take this photo? He stared at me, silent for a moment, then sighed as if resigning himself, a touch of helplessness in his tone. Why do you think? I pressed on. You liked me back then too, didn't you? Yes. A dull ache. Why didn't you say anything then? Why did you always push me away? Actually, I knew the answer. It was exactly what Su-Yan was saying. Su-Yan raised his hand and wiped away the remaining tear tracks on my face. Because I was your brother. Then why come and say all those things to me tonight? Did you ever regret it? I don't know. Maybe I just lost control. He wasn't looking at me, just kept his head down. Suddenly, I didn't know what else to say. Outside the window, the sound of fireworks erupted. A joyous, celebratory noise. People sincerely hoping to welcome a good new year. I moved past Su-Yan, walked to the window and looked up at those fleeting fireworks. Su-Yan followed, standing beside me. This time, he didn't put his arm around my shoulders. I said softly, Actually, it's fine that you're my brother. We are the closest in the world. A bond that can never be broken, right? Su-Yan turned his head to look at me, his expression gentle. We agreed on forever. A second less wouldn't count. I stood on my tiptoes, placed my hands on his shoulders, and gently pressed a kiss to his forehead, just like I had always wanted to do all those years ago. I looked at him with a focus I'd never had before. I said with a smile, Happy New Year, Jeej. He replied, his voice hoarse. Happy New Year, Kiao Kiao. Next year will surely be a good year.